Hello, and welcome to the show Goldsquadrongays. It's the podcast where two Star Wars loving gays break down each episode of their favorite Star Wars TV shows while also being gay as hell. I'm your host, Bradley Brower.
I'm Charles Rogers.
And hi, I'm Clayton. I'm back.
Yes, we got Clayton back again. Very exciting. Clayton, the reason that it kind of worked out for you to come on, I know you had wanted to come back and do one of the Book of Boba episodes, but it sort of worked out because you're actually doing some promotion right now. Do you want to tell us what you're promoting?
I am. So I just kicked off my campaign for competing in Miss Atlanta Showgirl. And that is a pageant that takes place this coming April. And some of the former winners of that title include Aria B. Cassadine, who was one of the finalists for Queen of the Universe, that you can watch on Paramount Plus. So that's pretty fun. But I'm competing in that in April, and I will be competing against my own drag sister. So that's a fun little tidbit. Battle of the Holmes sisters. So I think between the two of us, it'll be a bloodbath in itself.
Holmes get vicious.
Yeah,
I was there for Dragnificent. Holmes get vicious.
Yeah. Charles was there when I became a Holmes. So he knows all about what it took for me to even join that family. A lot of crying and insults.
There's a lot of drinking that happened.
Right. Oh my Jesus! Don't get me started. We could have a whole episode about that.
Spilling the secrets.
I'd say, yeah, that should be our next podcast, Charles, is like the secrets of how I won, and how we didn't kill each other. That's going to happen on April 25th at Lips, Atlanta, off Buford Highway. So if you're local, go get tickets. They are on sale, I think, now. So that'll be, that's on a Monday, April 25th. I do have my Cash App and Venmo up, and I do have a GoFundMe page available. If Charles and Bradley are willing,
we will link we will link at the very least the GoFundMe page in the show notes for this show. So if you are listening to us and you've liked Clayton's guest spots in the show so far and you have a few bucks to spare, consider donating to their pageant ambitions. I've seen them win one show. Let's see if they can do another one.
Oh, now a lot more money will be going into this, so I'll share with you some of that stuff in confidence, Charles, soon. But yeah,
I look
anyone
forward
that
to hearing all the tea.
Oh, you will. But anyone that donates will be listed as an official sponsor of Hydra or Team Hydra. So you'll be advertised as an official contributor. I will also have merchandise coming out. So I have a t-shirt design being made. So keep a lookout for those on my socials. It'll be really cute.
Awesome. Glad we were able to help you amplify that message.
Thank you.
You've been our most recurring guest so far.
Excellent.
So if you've liked Clayton's hanging out with us, consider kicking him a few bucks for the Miss Atlanta pageant. And if you're in the area and you can be safe about it, consider going out to support them at Lips on, you said, the 15th of April?
25th.
Before we dive into the Book of Boba, Chapter 3, I have not one, but two things that Charles fucked up. This is an extra special one. Thing number one is not really a thing I fucked up, but just a thing I forgot about until TikTok reminded me. If you look at our TikTok, let me wind back. A big question that we had with Boba episode 1 was, what the fuck is a stormtrooper doing in the Sarlacc pit?
Yes.
How did one get there? Is it the Devastator crew that got... Well, Darth Chaco on TikTok provided an answer, which was that way back in the 2015 run for the Darth Vader comics, this is issue 1 or 2. Vader goes to negotiate with Jabba and leaves a garrison behind. So there was actually a garrison of stormtroopers on Tatooine, probably the ones that Jabba tossed into the pit at some point. Gotcha. So that's how a stormtrooper probably ended up in the Sarlacc pit. The other much more nitpicky one. Okay, so on the last episode, I said that Asherad Het was one of the first times the Tuskens got humanized, and Asherad Het first appeared in Star Wars 1998, number 10. That is technically correct. However, I overlooked that his father, Sharad Het, was actually the first time we got some humanization of the Tuskens, and he appeared in Star Wars 1998, issue 7. I apologize to all the Legends fans in the audience who were offended by the fact that I forgot about Sharad Het and credited Asherad Het with being the first time. I deeply apologize to all 3 of you.
All 3 of you comic book nerds.
I'm like, are the Legends people the ones that like you offend the most? I feel like that's the case.
I'm not sure how many of our listeners actually are very familiar with Legends. This would be something that I would love to find out, is how many are actually, because we don't talk about it a lot on the show,
right.
But
only you do, because only you know. So I feel like you would get mad about it.
It's me
he gets
and a
mad
handful.
at himself.
It's true.
I'm just like, are you writing your own like Karen reviews? Like, is it you that you're apologizing to?
All the negative reviews you see that bash me for not knowing about Legends, those were written by me 2 or 3 days later when I realized my mistake.
100%.
Let's go ahead and dive into this episode. Bradley, do you want to give us the summary that I'm sure you wrote this time?
I did. I was prepared this time.
Surprise, surprise. He prepares. That's how you know he's the bottom.
Oh, well, thank God.
This week, Boba Fett takes on Black Chrysanthemum, makes some new allies with Rainbow Biker Gang, and gets a brand new pet. Clayton, what's one thing you liked about this episode and one thing you did not?
One thing I liked. So trying to think of the thing I liked the most. I liked Chrysanthemum like being there. Like I literally screamed when he like yanked him out of the like when he yanked him out of the back to tank and everything. I literally screamed and I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? So that was a nice surprise. Because I don't know a lot about Chrysanthemum, so I enjoyed reading up more about him.
I do.
And his appearance, I am sure, and his prevalence in the comics and the relationship that he has with Boba Fett in the comics. So I'm sure we'll see more about him. So I enjoyed that. I am all about like humanite or like turning a rancor into a little baby pet. So I enjoyed when the rancor showed up and was offered as a pet. So I'll enjoy if that yields any fun scenes in the future. So I like both of those things. What I didn't like, the speeder bike chase. Like I have thoughts. Like them as henchmen and the working for Boba and the chase scene itself, I just didn't like.
And what about you, Sir Charles?
So one thing I really liked about this episode was this really highlighted something Boba is doing really well. And it is very meta, where they're managing to bring in a lot of exciting stuff that is familiar to fans. But all the stuff people were like freaking out about and trying to theorize on before the show aired turned out to mean absolutely nothing. I love that Sophie Turner's character is just some random like street thug that just is on the streets of Tatooine. I love that the K symbol, which good on you, Claudia, I believe, from RuPaul's Pod Race for figuring out there was a K symbol. It's just the Kenton Striders. It's just some new swoop bike gang. But at the same time, we've got like the Pikes coming in and playing a huge role. We've had a Rancor show up, which I checked, Bradley, is not on your bingo card.
Technicality. I'm going to
one
count
specific Rancor, which is not the same Rancor.
I did, but I'm going to technicality use it because I feel like it's going to get really hard to get bingo points moving forward based on the stuff that I picked. So I'm going to count this one once we get to it, but I'm counting it as a bingo because I feel like it was unrealistic of me to select one particular type. I think I should have just said like in general Rancor, and then that's what it is.
Rancor in quotes.
Right.
Rancor. Okay, fine. I will permit this. But only because I feel like you need a win right now.
That's right.
One thing I disliked, the death of the Tusken was so uncomfortable to watch that it genuinely dampened the rest of my first viewing of the episode, to the point where I liked the episode when I went to bed. And when I woke up the next morning, the sour taste in my mouth was still so bad that I actually decided I didn't really like this episode. I just liked the individual components of it. And we'll get to that more in my final thoughts. But the Tusken stuff was just so gross that it just soured the whole thing for me. Like, just got my brain. And we'll get into, when we get to that scene, we'll get into a little bit on my perspective, and I stress that it's my perspective on why that was a problem for me to watch. But that was the thing I disliked. And I also mentioned this on Twitter, like, no surprises for guessing what the thing I'm going to say I disliked this week was. It was the really bad choice of killing off the Tuskens off screen. So those were my thing I liked and thing I disliked. Bradley, what about you? One thing you liked and one thing you didn't like.
The one thing I liked was I love the introduction of Baby Rancor. I think that's going to be, moving forward, a great Funko Pop to add to my wall is Boba riding Rancor. I know it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I mean, if I have Mando riding a Bantha and I have Mando on
they're called blurgs, Bradley.
Blurgs. Sorry, I keep forgetting that. So I have
Mando
riding
you don't
a blurg.
Listen to as many podcasts as I'm in the middle of listening to all of the Force Friends rewatch Mando coverage for reasons that I won't talk about yet. And they've been talking a lot about the blurgs. So I just have the blurgs on my brain right now.
Well, I'm excited because I know I'm going to get a Boba riding Rancor Funko Pop in the future. So that's why I really like the Rancor. Also, I feel like I technically could get a Boba riding Bantha because that was a thing. That's one thing I liked. One thing I did not like was the formatting of the episode. I genuinely, is just like what we said with that one episode and episode 2, feels like the editing is off plot wise. Like, I feel like what we said was last time, episode 1 and 2 felt like one complete story, one episode, and a part 1 and part 2. This is a similar situation. I felt like we only got part 1 of the episode because it abruptly ends with this Pike storyline that doesn't go anywhere. It just stops. And it's not in a normal, the episode ends on a cliffhanger kind of thing, because it really wasn't a cliffhanger. It was just kind of like the rest of the information's not there. And I feel like it'll get solved in the beginning of the next episode and then be good.
This episode was a lot, and again, I'll touch on this in my final thoughts. It was a lot of setting a bunch of things up.
Yeah.
That really should have been done in the pilot. By the time we're in episode 3,
right,
we should kind of be a little more understanding of where we're going. Like, looking at this versus Mando episode 3, which was the conclusion of their sort of pilot trilogy, but at least by that episode, we had basically figured out what was going to happen in this show.
Right. And what sucks is that we are technically, I mean, if you want to give it a number, we are at the technical halfway point of the story. And so I don't feel like we are, because I don't feel like we know who the true villain is anymore, because that was the whole crux of the last episode. We were like, oh, it's obviously the twins and Boba fighting for power. Like, that's
and
the
then
whole
they just
entire thing.
Fuck off in this episode.
Exactly. And it felt like such a missed opportunity. And now I'm like pissed off because it's
doing?
And I felt like a lot of the stuff that happens in this episode was, oh, that thing is going away, and now we're never going to see it again. Based on what they've kind of context clues given us, it just seems like all these characters just fuck off, and you're like, those are the best characters. Why are they going away? So
yeah,
once we get
abruptly
to
end, they abruptly
we'll
end the Tusken story, and then the freaking twins are like just fucking off, and I'm like,
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like you said, the Pike story was entered, and now it just abruptly just stops.
So we'll see, but
yeah, it's like, congratulations, the Pikes are here. And like, he clearly has a grudge with the Pikes from what happened with the Tuskens.
right.
But clearly he has some sort of, because I was watching it back. I was watching these a second time to take my notes. I was watching it back, and his reaction upon learning the Pikes are there is very much of somebody who's like, okay, I'm going to murder all of their faces now. Like, clearly he has something against them. But since it hasn't been shown to the audience yet, we don't necessarily care that the Pikes have shown up.
Right. Yeah. The resolve was not there because, as far as we know so far, the only problem he has are this swoop bike gang, not the fucking Pikes. So it's like, really doesn't really match up right yet. So that's why I said it's kind of like a part 1 and part 2. I feel like in the next episode, they'll explain why the Pikes are a piece of shit, and then we'll figure it out. But it's like, why are you doing this part 1 and part 2 thing to us when it needs to be all established early on, and it wasn't. But that's okay.
It should have been one longer episode. Episode 2 was like 57 minutes or something like that, and this episode was only 38. Like,
compare it to like the Bad Batch, where the Bad Batch had an extra long pilot. Now the Bad Batch was episodic. It is worth mentioning too that Bad Batch is episodic. Mando is to a degree episodic. It kind of walks the line. Boba is very much a serial.
Yeah.
Boba expects you're going to tune in every week. It's not a thing you can watch out of order. Right. It's like How to Get Away with Murder. You can't just like put on How to Get Away with Murder episode 11.
No, you would be totally lost.
That people knows what's going on. But even that one's kind of episodic. I don't know.
It's episodic. I meant to say, like, the writer of that knows how to write cliffhangers. Like, let's just be real about that. I don't know how you do it with how the Book of Boba is formatted.
Yeah. It's just like, I watched the first episode, and I pick and choose very carefully what things I show to my boyfriend, who I'm forcing to watch through Star Wars in return for watching a fuck ton of anime. How
are you making him start?
Kill la Kill is a weird show. We watched Rebels, and then Rogue One, and then the original trilogy.
You started him with Rebels first.
I started him with Rebels, and I will defend this choice because he really likes episodic TV. He really likes animated TV. I knew that he would love the characters, and starting with Rebels means that he didn't have to know a lot. He just had to pick up the Ghost crew, and I could basically explain anything else that popped in.
That's interesting. Well, because I'm a big fan of starting with Rogue One, introducing adults to Star Wars. I never thought about starting with Rebels. So
if they like TV,
interesting.
Rebels.
Yeah.
But
because I'm talking to a boy that doesn't know anything about Star Wars. So now I may actually copy your strategy. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, like, and people have talked about, like, when they're introducing people to books, pick a book that you think they'd like, that's with a movie they'd like. I take the same thing with the visual media. I was like, okay, you like this, here's a Star Wars thing. But my point was, when I finished watching the first episode of Book of Boba, I was like, okay, we're going to wait till this whole show is done, because I don't think he'd enjoy watching it week to week. I really don't. We should probably get into this episode here.
Yeah, let's go in, because otherwise we'll be here all night.
Bradley's like, shut the fuck up. Let's get into the episode.
That's one of Bradley's jobs as a co-producer on this show is to tell me to shut the fuck up.
Right.
And we ramble when I'm here, so I'm not helping. Like,
Chapter 3 begins with our favorite torture droid filling in Boba on who's in charge of what territory of Mos Espa, when Lortha Peel comes in to complain about a bike gang stealing his water. Boba agrees to confront them, but decides to hire them instead.
So Bradley, were you happy to finally see your Bomar Monk shot that you were bitching about in the trailer?
I fucking hate the fact that, one, that shot was not updated. It was the exact same shot for shot from the trailer. They didn't bother to change it. They didn't do anything different with it. And I thought, damn, you guys had the opportunity. Like, you know how when they show video game trailers and it says footage not final? That's what that shot is. Footage not final. And they say that for a reason, because when the video game comes out and everything's done, you're like, wow, this is much prettier. There's like a filter on it. There's like all this kind of shit going on. They didn't do that. They kept it the basic fucking animation that they got off their intern's computer.
Like it's weird. It sticks out because it's very obviously stop motion, as opposed to like the Huts or the Rancor that are obviously CGI, or Kersantin, who's a very attractive man in a suit.
Whoa, calm down, Charles.
I will not. This thing was very obviously stop motion, so to me it was a little bit weird. It just kind of stuck out a bit as of, this would be very impressive if this were a good chunk of the effects on the show. It's not, it's just a random section of it.
Right.
We get a little more on 8D8. We can definitely understand his fear, because if we remember from Return of the Jedi that I just watched the other weekend, Jabba was known for having protocol droids that offended him destroyed. So
I see. Oh, so that's why he was like, I just want to offend you, because
Jabba had to have it. There's a line in Return of the Jedi that's like, yes, it's like Evie or something, the droid that does the assignments is like, the master has need of a new protocol droid because he got mad at the last one and had it incinerated. Who do you wonder was probably doing the incinerating?
With a useless flamethrower.
With a useless flame. Oh, sure. I think they had a furnace. I have to watch that scene again.
Right.
Much more effective.
I love Phoenix. Do they have an appointment?
Like, do they have an appointment? I love her.
She's starting to let the mayor's major domo run off on her, because she's like, they have an appointment? No, they don't.
The theme of Book of Boba Fett is, do you have an appointment?
Right.
In Fennec's case, is, do they have an appointment? No. Can I kill them? Wait, please wait.
Please don't. Boba's like, yeah, sure, whatever. The guy who plays Lortha Peel, let me pull him up, is a gentleman by the name of Stephen Root. He has been in, he's a comedian. He's done a lot of comedy.
Lots of comedy.
He has done, looks like Office Space he was in 1999.
He was in Veep. I literally just watched that.
He was in Masters of the Universe Revelation, a show that I just reactivated my Netflix. I watched Arcane. I'm watching The Witcher. Then I will watch He-Man. Bradley, stop asking me to watch He-Man. I know it's gay. I will get to it. I want to watch The Witcher first.
You haven't seen He-Man?
That's hilarious.
I had my Netflix canceled for a long time.
Oh.
Well, Steven does the voice of Cringer, the tiger, so or / Battle Cat. So he does.
I was about to say, I'm like, okay. Yeah.
Fun fact, Stephen Root has done everything. Every franchise possible. So he not only beats the Disney trifecta, he beats a lot of other trifectas if you scroll down far enough in his IMDb page.
Does he get the Disney trifecta?
He does. I'm doing it on a technicality because he does a lot of voices.
He's very funny, so I'll give it to him.
What did he do in Marvel?
So he did in Marvel, there was a Guardians of the Galaxy animated show, and he did a voice in that. So I have to give it to him because that's his Marvel thing. And then he's done fuck ton of Disney. So
yeah, I'm rewatching Veep over and over again, and he's like, you watch Veep? Yeah, he's the dad. He's the Gary's dad in that, and like, I can't.
Oh my god, really?
I just watched. Because have you seen Veep, Charles?
I have.
Yeah.
Okay, so like the episode where they go and like for Gary's 40th birthday, and his dad's like a closeted weirdo. Like presenting man, but also takes these boys on camping trips / hunting trips, like, and then the wife's like, oh, he just grooms these boys for his work at his law firm. It's fine. And I'm like, the fuck? So I just watched that episode, And then I watched the third episode of Book of Boba Fett, and he walks in at the beginning of the episode, and I'm like, oh my fucking god, I can't take this seriously after just watching that episode of Veep.
What was his Disney? What was his Disney thing, Bradley?
What wasn't his Disney? He was in Finding Nemo and Finding Dory as Bubbles the fish. He was
Bubbles.
He was Bubbles the fish, the little yellow fish.
That.
He was in Gravity Falls, Star versus the Forces of Evil,
Amphibia. It looks like he was in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He was
Adventure
in
Time. Like, he does everything. Guys.
Awesome,
like,
dude.
He has done everything.
The last thing he was in that I'm going to bring up, because I do not think enough people watched it, he was in Turn: Washington Spies as Nathaniel Sackett. Turn is a series that I love and no one else has seen.
I was going to say I've never heard of that, but okay.
I'd say it's very typical of you to like love things that no one else likes. So
that tends to be the case here.
AKA Legends. Why? Who said that? No.
Yeah. Says the woman who wants to do drag as Darth Talon. Okay.
Hey, Darth Talon doesn't matter how like not as powerful as she might be. She looks like a badass. Like, so we just need to rework her. We just need to rework the storyline a little.
I would say you should do Lorna D, but you don't know who that is from the High Republic.
Because I read about her at one point. No, yeah, we can get into that. Wait, who is the? So it's bugging me. Steven had a character. Since we were still talking about him, he wore like the big eye really magnifying glasses. What movie was that?
Office Space. I think
was that. No, this was Office Space.
Yeah, it was Office Space.
I'll have to probably look it up later.
We'll have to figure it out later.
Research, yeah.
I didn't do a lot of research into this. Star Wars Explained puts out his like Easter eggs and things you might have missed in the episode. I meant to do a lot of research on this, and then work got very busy. But apparently the Swoop Bike gang is invocative of an actual historical scooter gang in London, I think called the Mods. Let me Google that real quick.
That's kind of funny if that's what it's called.
I have a joke about them, but I think I probably
or that may be what they call themselves in the show. I don't know.
Not the Rainbow Bike
It's
Riders.
not called Rainbow Bike.
Bright.
I'm not
That's
sure.
what I call them. I don't know what their official name is, but
Rainbow Riders.
Rainbow Riders.
Well, Star Wars Explained.
No, Rainbow
Star Wars Explained.
like Rainbow Bright, but Rainbow Briders.
Oh, Rainbow
I personally love the GSA Scooter Brigade. Like, I'm a huge fan of it. Yeah, no, go check out the Star Wars Explained video. He talks about an actual scooter gang that these guys were sort of based on. So
I'm gonna wait to make fun of them until we talk about the scene. So
okay.
Next up is Sophie Thatcher.
Yes, Sophie Thatcher. Let's talk about her. She's only done a few things.
I only wrote down the one thing that she's currently doing because I think that's what most people would know her for.
Do you want to talk about the one thing? Because I haven't been watching it, Bradley.
I haven't either.
A chance to sell me on
I genuinely don't know what it is. I just saw it was like the thing that she had photos for on IMDb. So it's called Yellow Jackets.
Okay.
So I have no idea what that is, but
pretentious gay men that I follow on Twitter seem to really like Yellow Jackets when they're not screaming about the new Scream movie, pun intended.
Oh my god, yeah, all the gay porn Twitter boys are all screaming about Scream, haha. Like, my grandma brought up Yellow Jackets earlier tonight, like an hour ago. She's like, y'all seen Yellow Jackets? And I'm like, what the fuck is that? I don't know what that is. And then I remember seeing like a trailer for it.
I think it's on Amazon or something like that.
Is it? Okay.
It's one of those. Yeah. But yeah, I wasn't into it because it's very much Lord of the Flies, but girls. So I'm just like,
okay. Because I thought it was like another version of like Pretty Little Liars or like, because I said that and my grandma's like, is it? Well, I said that and my grandma was like, no, it's not like that at all. And I'm like, okay, like you just killed off my third bottle of champagne. I don't care what you think. Like,
it's like it's Lost, but with girls. Like that's it. Like they're all like on a volleyball team or some bullshit. I mean, I don't know what the actual. Don't come for me, people. I don't know what the sport is, but The whole thing is
But
yellow jackets.
don't piss off Lost. Like,
Right.
oh God.
But
Okay.
yeah, it's just girls stranded on an island. That's all it is.
Oh, well, that sounds terrible.
Is it? Sounds like my worst nightmare.
Right, exactly. That's why I'm not into it.
We'll have to cut that out. Don't cancel me. Oh, Jesus.
Does anybody else think that Mos Espa is just getting bigger with every establishing shot? Because when it's all lit up,
I thought
you
it
can
was
tell
much
it's
smaller.
It's huge. This thing is giant. We were theorizing like a week or two ago that what happened was it's actually this huge city, and Qui-Gon landed the ship like right outside the city limits and went to literally the first used car dealership that's just right over the county line, and immediately staked the whole future of the galaxy on this one auto merchant out in the boonies. Because it's massive. Like with the lights up, you can see it. It is gigantic. Gigantic, just like my crush on several of the male members of the Speeder Bike gang. Can we talk about how hot they all are?
I totally thought that sentence was going to go somewhere else, but then
I know. I was like, where is that going?
These men are very hot.
And Bradley were fully prepared for you to brag about the size of your manhood, but no.
I will not be disclosing details about that on this show.
I'll just ask your boyfriend. It's fine. Like
he'd probably tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of these men are hot.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. Like the cyborg could get it. Like the one with the big the cyborg. Well, they're all technically cyborgs, I guess. But the one with like the eye.
He's the only one who I saw that got a name mention because he's been in other stuff.
Yes, the gentleman's name is, I'm literally looking at the cast list, trying to find it, and Jordan Bolger. There he is. He was up higher on the cast list. Mm-hmm. Jordan Bolger is the gentleman's name, and he could absolutely get it. Like
definitely Bolger. Bulger me. Well, I'll Bulger him down. I don't know.
He's the only one. He's the only one that, other than Sophie Turner, that's listed on IMDb.
Sophie Thatcher.
You said you keep saying Sophie Turner, and like I about
Sophie
had
Thatcher. Sorry, so I was a big Game of Thrones fan.
Okay, yeah, me years. Too. And he said Sophie Turner early in the episode, and I shut my mouth. I'm like, was fucking like Sansa in this goddamn episode.
Oh, it's so funny. I didn't even realize I said that. I literally have it in my
mind. I was a Game of Thrones fan. I have brain rot. I can't help myself.
That's hilarious.
Oh my God. I literally was just internally screaming. I'm like, I really should have watched this episode again. Because if I didn't see Sansa. Okay, yeah, cool. Well, now I know that you're just having brain rot, and my brain hasn't rotted to that degree yet. Because if I hadn't missed Sansa in this episode and I didn't see her, I would have like, shit. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, get Sophie Turner in a Star Wars, please.
She should. Like, we already have Emilia Clarke already, which apparently she's going to get a series. Okay, I don't want to get too off topic, but
we don't address things that are unconfirmed on the show, but there are also rumors that she might be getting her own series.
I really
also
hope that's true.
Rumored to get her own series.
I saw that earlier today. Actually, that's the
I
first.
I am gonna say, if you like Kira, the current run of the Star Wars comics, Charles Soule, who is one of the High Republic authors, is taking the reins on. We're in a trilogy of event series centered around the return of Crimson Dawn. So she's a major player in the comics right now. So
I would totally watch that. So.
Yeah, Charles Soule is a very good writer, and there's a bit where she actually talks to Leia, and it's everything I ever dreamed it would be and more.
Aww.
But returning to Jordan Bolger, he looks like he's been in a lot of TV stuff, in recurring roles. A show called David Makes Man. He was in The 100, Peaky Blinders, Into the Badlands.
Okay, yeah. I was like, I saw him in something, and I'm like, it must have been Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, probably Peaky Blinders.
And I love that show.
100%. I hope nothing happens to him,
because we all want to screw him. So yeah.
Yes,
no,
I mean,
don't-
yes,
don't die.
that is accurate. I literally have Sophie Turner written in my notes.
Oh, wow. At least I wrote it down correctly.
You're the fucking worst. I'm gonna like tweet her and tag it.
Oh my god! Because I am so sorry, Sophie Turner and Sophie Thatcher. I have brain rot. This is what you get for being a Game of Thrones fan while it was airing. Your brain never recovers.
Oh my god.
I did think it was a neat twist on what we expect with the street rats, for him to be like, I'm going to recruit you. And it's not even like, oh, you're badass, I'm going to recruit you.
Right.
They make good points. Like, there's no work.
Right.
This guy is overcharging us. We can't go back to work because there is no work to be had. And he's like, okay, cool, come work for me. I did.
Yeah. It was a very easy solution to what they could have made a whole big deal out of. Like, there's like, nah, I'm going to nip this shit in the bud right now. Like, you know, you kids are going to get off the streets and come work for me. And I'm going to put you on the streets to, like, you know, do my bidding. Yeah.
There's a note I have later of something specific where we're highlighting a lot of ways the difference between Jabba and Boba. Mm-hmm. The way Boba's running things versus the way Jabba's running things. And this scene is indicative in a lot of ways of how Boba is planning to run things. He listens to both sides and then he comes to a decision that benefits everybody. Benefits some jerk-ass people less.
Right.
But it does benefit everybody.
I think they're purposely highlighting the contrast in how he presents to the public and how Jabba or any of the Hutts would be presented to the public, because, you know, the Hutts are only presented in parade fashion. Like, they don't go out and do their own work. They send their deputies. They, like, you know, they don't go out and handle their own shit. So, and they purposely are focusing in on that. And I think that'll come to a head at some point in the series.
Title card: The Streets of Mos Espa.
I hate you so
much. Sorry, I had to do that.
You dramatic fucking twink.
It's because he knows I'm about to make fun of it. Like,
well, it's funny because, like, again, they keep disappointing us with the name of the episode. Because
I'm so mad. I'm so mad. I'm genuinely angry. Rupal's Padres literally invented a new segment called the Books of Boba Fett.
Yes.
Where one host was going to explain the book. So they went on this long explanation of Stranger in a Strange Land, which helpfully covered all of the reasons I hate that book and it's all
right.
And then had to retire it in the next episode because it turned out that was only for episode 1. And I feel their pain truly, because
I mean,
at least last episode, Calvin was able to educate you on Dune.
Right.
So
but the episode wasn't called Dune. It was called Tribes of Tatooine. So it's just funny.
Wait. Bradley hasn't seen Dune?
Bradley, you want to tell him?
I've seen Dune, and we were talking about how I fell asleep during the new movie because it was long and boring. But it was, I know gay gas, but it was.
If there's one good thing from this podcast, it's being able to put Bradley falling asleep during the new Dune movie on blast.
Anyway, that's going to create a whole new gay rage. Anyway,
right? No, but I feel now I'm wondering, like, okay, so the next episode is going to be called The Dune Seas of Tatooine. Like, I don't know what it's, you know what I mean? Like, are they just getting lazy?
Of blank. They're doing the Game of Thrones thing where it's like the blank of blank.
Yeah, it's like blank. Whatever place this plot takes place is like that's going to be the next title. So I don't know. We'll see. So the theories on next week's episode is going to be the dining room of Boba Fett. That's my theory. Because that's the dinner scene has to be next week, because we keep joking that it's the next episode. It's the next episode because it was in the goddamn trailer, and
we can place bets for what they're going to name the episode.
Right. So that's what I think. Or maybe it'll be called like. So instead of dinner with schmucks, it's dinner with Trandoshans.
God damn it!
That's what it's going to be called. I think that's what the next one is. Okay, anyway, let's go into the next section. Back in the Bacta tank, we see Boba travel to Mos Eisley to collect on behalf of the Tuskens, but we learn that the Striders are already providing protection to the Pikes. Boba vows to solve this problem and returns to the Tuskens only to find them dead.
So we'll talk about all the cute little Easter eggs and stuff first, and then we'll talk. Then I'll do my serious talk about.
Okay,
the
yeah. We'll do
angle I
Easter
wanted
eggs
to
first.
address. We'll do
That's-
Easter eggs first.
That's the cute stuff. Let's do the cute stuff first.
The frog outside of Jabba's palace is a cute little nod to Return of the Jedi,
Right. I'm
A
like,
very
that's
similar
exactly
shot.
what it was.
where it just zaps out. The Camino scene is the same scene from episode 2 extended.
Yeah.
And I have a theory about this. I think this is the night that Django left to go to Coruscant.
So
The
will
Coruscant
we see
for
to do stuff
To go kill Padme.
right.
but just about to say, I'm like when he was hired to kill
When he was
kill
hired
Padme,
to kill
yeah.
Padme. So this is
Because I'm like
taking place
he would have gone to Coruscant for all sorts of shit, but like you're implying
specifically
this
in Attack of the Clones.
episode. So this ties directly into the beginning of episode 2.
Correct. That's my
Got it.
theory.
That makes sense.
Is
Okay.
This is the
Yeah.
night that Django left to go to Coruscant to take that job that will eventually kill him.
Do you have a theory of why that's significant to Boba? And
I do. I think that we're going to have a flashback to them having to Django telling him something that night that's going to be
about
important.
his career,
And they're just as like a person, as like a father.
As his career. You know, if you want to
by
be
the way, I'm a
successful in
bounty
this
hunter.
business.
Well, yeah, because I wonder, I'm like,
I know, I get what
who
you're
was
saying.
ever honest
Yeah.
about how many people
Yeah,
he
yeah.
killed?
Like it's going to be like in the very last episode or something, we're going to finally see the whole flashback, and Django's going to tell him like something that is inspiring and will be the reason for him thinking about stuff at the end. That's my theory.
Gotcha.
When we enter Mos Eisley, did you guys catch our not one but two Mando references?
Yes, I did.
You want to tell me what they are?
The more non-obvious one is or maybe it's obvious, is the spiked helmets from the quote-unquote Mando trailer. I'll say that's what it was most prominently shown in.
Yep. We see that Garrison
I
I mentioned at the top of the episode has been killed and are being spiked.
And we find out what random guy did it. Not that we needed to know that, but
who's wandering around behind
Pelimoto.
We see a little shot of Pelimoto,
which I love, because also timeline wise, like I don't think it matters when it happened, but it's kind of nice to see that she was like walking around with her little pit droids in the background when Boa was kind of like, I don't know how close they're trying to get this to Mando season 2. So I'm trying to see like, is this like maybe she's on her way back to the hangar and then Mando lands in her hangar? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know where they're trying to like connect it, but
I think pretty close.
It's got to be 5 years. He's been with the Tuskens for an indeterminate amount of time. So it's, if they're spiking the helmets, they must have just kicked the Empire off the planet.
Right.
In the flashbacks, they had just toppled the Empire. And Boba wouldn't have known this yet until he literally just rode in to Mos Eisley and the Bantha.
So it's maybe been a couple of months.
Yeah. Right. Because he's been, because he got taken, he escaped from the Sarlacc pit, got taken up by the Tuskens, and he's basically been with them the whole time. And I think this is his first time going into.
Right. Been with them for months.
Right. So, and he didn't know what the hell was going on outside of that. So this is his first, he sees all the spiked stormtrooper helmets and he's like, well, shit, they defeated the Empire. Cool. Anyways, I'm going to go talk to the fucking Pikes, because I don't give a shit about that.
Speaking of the Pike that he talks to, the Pike is being voiced by a gentleman named Phil Lamar, who is a prominent voice actor on Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Most particularly, he was the voice of Bail Organa in that show, but he's also provided additional Star Wars voices. So he got to be the voice of the Pike leader.
Oh no, I didn't. Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't like his voice, like because I'm used to the Pikes being more menacing. Like if that makes sense. Like if you go back to like how they sounded throughout the Clone Wars series, like I wouldn't think that the guy who voiced Bail Organa and how he sounds would be like a crime boss.
The Pike leader mentions Obadiah. We've seen Obadiah before in season 7 of the Clone Wars. That is, I believe, where Ahsoka and the Martez sisters were taken. Pike homeworld.
Obadiah, I'm called, yeah. It's like tomato, because I've heard it called both.
Obadiah. It's the whole, is it Markion? Is it Marchion thing?
Right.
There's this whole thing in Star Wars, like, how the fuck do you pronounce this? Who knows? Who knows? I don't know.
Bradley, do you have an opinion?
Is it Han or Han? You know, I mean...
Well, I don't know. Ask Lando Calrissian.
It's whatever Billy D. Williams decides it's going to be.
Yeah.
That man can say whatever he wants. And if he's saying it in that silky 80s voice of his,
right,
I buy it.
I mean, I would say general rule of thumb with Star Wars is like however it's said in the visual media is how it is pronounced.
Right. I don't know who the fucking authority would be and how it's pronounced. I don't really care, but it's just funny. I do care.
I just recorded a Fallen Star episode that I'm in the process of editing now with Hope from Jag Guys and Jedis and Hope Makes Chris Watch Cartoons and Chris from Dark Side Divas, just talking about the Fallen Star book. And one of the things we bring up is the debate in how exactly are you supposed to pronounce the main villain of the High Republic era's name? Because it's pronounced several different ways. This is an ongoing thing in Star Wars fandom right now. How the fuck do you say this right?
How do they say it in the audiobooks?
Both ways.
See?
They do.
Like, okay.
They do.
So...
He's pronounced Marchion Ro in Light of the Jedi and Rising Storm. And then literally the same guy, Mark Thompson, switches to Markion Ro in Fallen Star.
Well, they're just no fucking help at all.
Like, there's discourse. Anyway.
We won't get you started.
You know better than you've been on this show before. You know better than
I'm not taking that bait.
Let's address the elephant in the room, and I'm going to talk
the bantha in the room.
The bantha in the room. The bantha no longer. Only the bantha. Only the bantha is left.
Oh, no,
not the elephant. Not the elephant disguised as the bantha in the room.
Right.
It's a callback to the episode.
Still shook by that, by the way.
Let's address the elephant in the bantha costume in the room and talk. I'm at least going to talk just briefly about why watching the Tusken scene was so uncomfortable for me. And it goes back to, as you would know if you've been a longtime listener of the show, I'm a big history nerd. I'm also a writer, and I try to incorporate history stuff into my writing. And when you're incorporating historically inspired stuff or culturally inspired stuff into your writing, you have to be very careful about how you address it. Like, I use the example of when I watch media and I see quote unquote gay men dying of AIDS used as a shorthand for things. So someone has the blisters. That makes me uncomfortable to watch. Not because it personally happened to me, but because it's part of my history, part of my group's history, part of the gay history. Watching the scene with the Tuskens and knowing that they just spent an entire episode characterizing them as indigenous peoples, to turn around and watch them get wiped out in the next episode, knowing that, yes, that did happen to a lot of indigenous peoples, and that was very bad, but you didn't have to specifically invoke it with this choice, was uncomfortable for me to watch. And the only thing I could think of is it would really suck to be a person of Indigenous descent and watch this. And on top of that, it's just a lazy choice. Like, I was talking to somebody today, and we were spitballing back and forth better ways to do this, where you could have been like, well, maybe like they get attacked and they don't all die, but then Boba realizes that, you know, he's being a danger to them by being there. And if he wants to help them, he has to go back and do things from the other side of things. He can't necessarily return. Like, there's other ways you could have done this that didn't invoke the Indigenous peoples getting wiped out trope.
Yeah.
This did. So this is the biggest black spot on the episode in the series for me.
Right.
It's just hanging on here on my enjoyment is this was bad. This was a bad choice. This was a choice that was not considered, the impact it was going to have on its audience. You have to be careful when you bring in actual historical things that happened, how you do it. And I did not think this did it well. I'm speaking as a white person. I'm not descended from Indigenous peoples. I am white. But my perspective watching it was knowing they'd just been characterized as Indigenous peoples, watching them get wiped out was supremely uncomfortable for me to watch. So bad choice is what I felt like that was.
So I know we saw the leader dead.
We see the leader dead, and we see the gaffy sticks for the warrior and the kid.
And the kid, right? So they just kind of imply that the other two are dead.
Yeah,
but we don't see a body, so
we don't. Well, they didn't want to show like a dead kid on screen, like
true. Or the warrior and the kid got away, and they'll come back in a later episode.
God, I hope so.
I thought I saw them. I thought I saw them lying there dead.
Well, we just see bodies.
And here's part of
I saw the kid lying there.
Here's part of my problem too, because
I don't think so.
Even if they do this, even if they like try to backpedal on it slightly, and be like, no, some of them survived. Right. You still did the trope.
You still did the genocide trope,
getting wiped out. To forward the outsider's pain, like you still did that. That was a bad choice, guys. You can walk that back a little bit later, but it's still a bad choice.
Right. I would like to see if they do bring them back, though. It would be nice, though, like to be like, hey, here's the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever who actually survived with the warrior and the kid. Now they've decided to kind of bring the other tribes together, kind of thing, to kind of like be like, hey guys, if we band together and we're not separate and we're not raiders anymore and we don't do this thing, then we can survive and thrive.
Yeah, like almost if they did like a great law of peace kind of thing, I think was the
You know what I mean? Like that
again,
would be
it wouldn't soften the really bad choice that they made in this episode.
Right.
But like we'll have to see. And that's something it would because it's not really me it has to help. It's not really me that's gonna be the most hit by this.
Right.
I have like secondhand uncomfortableness from it, knowing how other people are going to feel watching this.
You're just empathetic to the people that would actually really be like traumatized and
I'm like,
triggered
wow, that
by
sucks to show. Yeah, wow, that sucks to show like something that actually happened. Again, I really hate it when things use AIDS iconography as a shorthand for dying of disease, because that's part of my history, is that happened to my subculture, and it's really uncomfortable for me to watch that. And so when things drop the ball like this, that makes me really uncomfortable, both just to watch it and to know how other people are going to react to it. I will say, Tim acts the hell out of these scenes, and like, good job on him, because he absolutely acts the hell out of it. And I did like the callback that he's the one to do the burial, where remember back in episode 2, he wasn't allowed to do the burial, and now he's the only one left in doing it.
Right.
I thought that was effective, but the overall trope, bad, John, bad. You need to hire diverse writers' rooms.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with Charles and how he feels about it. Like, because he messaged me yesterday and just like he vaguely invoked the scene, and I'm like, well, I haven't watched it yet. Like, so I guess we'll talk about it when we like talk about it tonight, or like we are now. And I'm like, what was bothering him so much about the Tuscans? And then I watched the scene. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, and then I pondered on it some more, and I'm like, well, I can see why they did it. But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, it really was to me kind of lazy, a lazy out, like just to kill them off. And in the fashion they did it, they definitely could have done it better, been more sensitive to like those kinds that kind of trope. Like,
And you made the point earlier that the episode's only 38 minutes long.
right?
You could have added 5 minutes onto it to tell a slightly better story. Yeah, I always make sure if I'm gonna discuss something that's a little bit sensitive on the show, this is how the sausage is made, I will always tell our guests up front that I am going to bring it up. So I had messaged Clayton ahead of time to say, hey, vaguely, heads up, I'm going to talk about this.
Boba is suddenly pulled from the back to tank as Black Chrysanthemum attacks. Members of the bike gang and the Gamorrean guards help fight back. Fennec manages to drop BK down in the rancor pit, keeping him prisoner.
Did not like this scene when I first watched it, but I think I was being too hard on it because I was coming off the back of the really bad Tusken stuff.
Yeah.
Watching it on a rewatch, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good
it's
fight
pretty
scene.
good.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say though, it's shocking because you knew that, like, okay, so the formatting of the show so far has been always back to tank flashback, right? And then he always kind of comes out of it and slowly, and then the back to tank opens up and the water drains.
Yeah,
that's like kind of been the trope. This is the first time we've been like a quick sudden been shocked out of his dream sequence essentially. And who else to do it but Black Chrysanthemum, which, by the way, those fucking electrical brass knuckles are sick as fuck.
Oh my God.
I was shook at those when they activated those. I'm like, holy fuck, like that's sick. Way better than a flamethrower.
He's a fucking Boba like reaches for the flamethrower. He reaches for his Mandalorian armor and he can't get a hold of it, and he ends up grabbing the gaffy stick, which somebody pointed out I think is symbolic because it's the gaffy stick that ultimately saves his life. I loved that. I do want to know how Boba's walking around after that, though.
His spine.
Literally, I thought he was going to be crippled, and he'd like, because after the fight was done and like the Gamorreans got their shit wrecked. Which, by the way, I still stand by the fact that like the fat Gamorreans probably would have stood a better chance like against Chrysanthemum than these skinny Gamorreans that are now in the Mando and Book of Boba Fett universe.
Chrysanthemum has to tackle them down the stairs, like
to catch them off guard.
To catch them off guard, like they come in, and he like, which was when I first watched it, was the only part of the fight that I really did like was Chrysanthemum. This fight was very unique because it was like a wrestling match. Like Boba was using these very wrestling tackles on Chrysanthemum, and I thought that was an interesting way of fighting, which is sort of different than we've seen thus far on the show. I love that the scooter gang comes in to help him, and like his mercy from the early part pays off, because the Gamorreans wouldn't have gotten there in time, and Fennec was still down in Jabba's chamber.
They come in handy. They don't stop him, but you know they help. Like,
it's very hard to stop Black Chrysanthemum when he gets going.
Yeah.
Chewbacca couldn't even stop Black Chrysanthemum. It took a bunch of people working together to stop him.
Well, no, I think Black Chrysanthemum, the whole point is that I think he's probably like twice Chewbacca's size and muscle mass. Like
Black Chrysanthemum has fought Chewbacca and won. Canonically, he fought Chewbacca and won.
Okay, cool. More things for me to know as I learn more about him. But yeah, But yeah, the whole bones cracking thing, like, and he literally, I mean, that was gruesome. Like, I was cringing when he was like breaking his fucking spine. I'm like, oh god, he's not gonna be able to walk. And then he just fucking walks.
He's walking
like,
around his
it's not a big
fucking
deal at
bathroom.
all. And he's like, oh yeah, put the Gamorrean that got his shoulder bit in the back tank. And I'm like, did you just have like 30 bones broken? Oh no, you're fine. Okay. So a little bit of a writing hole there for John. Like,
I mean, he's
like,
a spry 40. So, he having your bones crushed is nothing,
It's all
right. Yeah.
He's just that sexy.
Right.
He's just that sexy.
Ooh, Boba.
Sir, Boba has like the dad bod going on. Like, we love it.
Your sexual preferences are the most confusing thing on the fucking planet. I swear.
I like hot people. I like hot men. That's my sexual. That's all muscle, right?
He just likes power. Like,
power talk.
All right.
Your boyfriend.
Anyway,
your boyfriend's
moving
dad
on.
bod
on. I did think it was a missed opportunity here that Fennec was not in the fight.
I did like her showing up and nuking him at the end because it shows her resourcefulness. She doesn't just join in. Right. She immediately solves the problem.
But
they basically are making her the Rancor button pusher.
Person.
Like, he needs the Rancor. Oh, the Rancor button. Like, that's what they're making her do. They're not showing her off.
Hear me out.
Pushing the Rancor button.
Hear me out. If Ming-Na Wen wants to press the Rancor button to drop people into the Rancor pit, Ming-Na Wen can do what she wants.
But what I was saying is, like, because last week I did tell you, I made the theory, right? I was like, oh, I was half right because I did say Black Chrysanthemum was the physical aspect of the twins, right? He was the thing that was going to be the adversary for Boba, the physical fighting part. Unfortunately, I said Fennec would also be kind of having a showdown with Black Chrysanthemum because that would be like an ultimate kind of fight, right? To see like her cunningness versus his brute strength. So it's kind of like a disappointment that I didn't get to see her kind of just come at any kind of hands with him. I mean, her
cunningness better. Her cunningness was that she didn't engage him.
Exactly.
She dropped him into the pit and then knifed his hand to make him fall.
The next morning, the twins arrive bearing a "sorry we tried to kill you with a Wookiee" gift as Danny Trejo pulls up with a Rancor pup. Boba lets Black K free, and the Rancor imprints on his new daddy Boba.
Danny fucking Trejo as a fucking Rancor keeper is almost enough to merit this episode's existence.
How did we not see Danny Trejo showing up?
How did we not see Danny Trejo coming? Like, how did we not see that?
It's the only thing that makes sense.
Will do anything. They'll do anything to get a Star Wars cameo.
Yeah, and Danny Trejo is like Robert Rodriguez's cousin and like shows up in everything. So like obviously he was going to give him. He's in Spy Kids and Machete playing the same character. Oh, what if this is Machete?
It's all Machete.
Oh
every
my
single,
god!
Every single thing is
it's
Machete.
Same character.
He's always playing the same character. He never changes character.
Turns out the whole series is going to get blown up, and surprise, it's Machete. And he takes over as the plot. Like,
right, there you go.
I would watch a Danny Trejo Rancor spinoff. I would
Danny Trejo riding a Rancor with his sidekick with a rocket launcher attached to her thigh. Like,
there you go.
I do want to discuss the sort of this dinner scene that happens with them, where we kind of see Fennec's kind of really leaning a lot into the like crime lord aesthetic, and Boba's like totally utilitarian. Like, he almost seems annoyed by how much food is in front of him.
Right.
And Fennec's like, can you just chill and drink the wine at 7:00 in the morning? Which, mood. I like that it shows the differences in their management styles and also how they talk to each other about it, because it's not an argument. It's not a debate. They're just talking, but they clearly have very different priorities.
Right.
Well, she's used to being an assassin, like, you know, just kind of taking the gigs for hire, do the job, and that's it. She's not used to being the right hand of a crime lord. So if I were her, yeah, I'd be milking it for everything it was fucking worth.
Right.
And he's taking the revolutionary stance of how he wants to change how those things in his position are done. So if I were under him, I'd be like, fuck that. I want to have all the shit that Jabba had. So I can see why she acts the way she does.
Right. And it shows also how, you know, Jabba and also by association, Bib Fortuna got so fucking fat is because they would constantly eat. And clearly, you know, when you get complacent, you know, that physical transformation takes place. And so when you are a crime lord and everything's handed to you, you know,
in the Return of the Jedi novelization, the original Legends ones, I think Jabba's original backstory was that he was a human and he had like mutated into this slug thing, which is obviously they retconned that, which was a good idea.
Yeah, no,
because that's a weird backstory to have for someone. But the original novelizations are wild. Luke Skywalker's dog was Legends canon. Like it was canon to
the dog
Legends that he had a dog.
Nice.
Luke Skywalker owned a dog.
I love dogs. We should have more dogs.
Was it a golden retriever?
I imagine it was probably a golden retriever, but he thinks about his dog. This is canon too. Yeah.
Yikes.
Legends is wild. Why the fuck does everyone want Tatooine?
Clearly,
I don't know. It's kind of like
not that much.
Well, it's kind of like how everyone wants Dune, like or Arrakis.
There's spice on Arrakis. There's a reason to go to Arrakis. Why does everyone want? Every time people describe Tatooine, they're like, "It's a rock."
It's a rock.
It's a rock. Do
Nobody
people want it because like Jabba's palace happened to be built there?
I don't think Star Wars ever really dived into what the resources Tatooine does have to offer.
Doesn't have them.
Yeah, it's just
sand.
Sand. It gets everywhere.
Oh fuck!
I mean, do we know that that's the only thing that it has to offer? Because like on its surface,
nothing else.
Well,
Pod racing.
Well,
it's so backwater and remote that it's the perfect place to run a criminal empire. So if you're going to run a criminal empire,
it's the desert planet in the Outer Rim that, as far as anyone knows, doesn't have any resources, quote unquote. No one wants, so they'll leave us the fuck alone. Like the Galactic United States of America isn't going to show up drilling it for oil, like.
Right. So the thing is that its resource is not a physical object. Tatooine's resource is the sheer fact that it is an unassuming planet for crime to go down. You can do whatever you want, and the government or the empire, quote unquote, will say, because the empire at the time, you know, nobody can get us out here. We're in the Outer Rim. And that's prevalent in most of the Star Wars media. Is that's where most of the crime takes place, because the Republic can't
out in the Outer Rim. Yeah, because they really tried to colonize. They really tried to get colonies out in the Outer Rim, and oh boy, did that not go well for them.
Right.
That super did not go well for them. Rip Starlight Beacon, you were a real one. Can we all agree that Black Chrysanthemum is definitely coming back?
Okay, wait. How? I need to figure that out.
I'm confused as to why that he just let him go. I thought he was going to try and let him. He was like, "Oh, you're free to go." I thought Black Chrysanthemum would be like, "Well, I ain't got nowhere to fucking be. I'll just stay here."
I'll stay here.
Like I would.
That's what I thought.
I thought he was going to pull like a Wookiee life debt like fucking situation and
100%.
be like, "Well, you let me live, so I owe you a fucking life debt."
Honor.
But no, he just fucking like wandered off into the fucking desert, and I'm like, what? Like, I'm sure he's gonna come back, but I'm just like,
no, I agree. I was so sad because I was like, why was he not just like, oh, you're not gonna kill me? Okay, well, I guess I'll just stick around here since there's more to do here than there is, you know, on the fucking, you know, he just jogs off into the distance. Like, where the fuck
he's gonna, you know,
like,
he's
where
gonna
the fuck
show
are
up.
You going?
You know, it's gonna be dramatic. He has to come back at a dramatic moment to like save Boba or a dramatic moment to do something awesome, like that's what they're gonna do with him. But yeah, Black Chrysanthemum has absolutely no scruples about just, oh, you're freeing me.
Yeah.
Bye,
Okay,
Rocco.
fuck off, bye.
Yeah. He just pieces out. He's like, okay, bye.
Oh well, bye, Rocco.
Also, I don't like how the
Black
twins.
Chrysanthemum is.
I also don't like how the twins just gave up that fucking easily, where they're just kind of like,
That did annoy me.
they're like, okay,
Why were the twins here?
yeah,
Like, what narrative purpose did they serve? They sent Black Chrysanthemum after Boba and told him about the Pikes and gave him the Rancor. That was it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing they did. Why were they here?
I guess that'll I guess they'll explain that in one of the next episodes, hopefully. Because otherwise, I'm like, y'all will have some really sporadic writing in the show. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, hopefully, you didn't just write as you went, kind of like with the sequel series. But
unfortunately, I can tell you they
you can answer that question.
100%. Jon Favreau has done interviews where it seems like with these shows, they have a basic like targets that they're trying to hit, and they're sort of making up it as they get there going along.
Right.
So it's not like Mando. Mando wasn't like that, I don't think. Like the
That
first
was
season,
Jon
especially.
Favreau. He gave the interview.
Yeah.
Like they'll plan out the whole seasons,
Right.
but like they don't know exactly what Mando season 3, like Rangers of the New Republic, they decided like we don't have enough material here to carry its own show. And the person that we were making it a vehicle for turned out to be an awful piece of shit, and we did not renew their contract. And so they were just like,
Are they bringing her back?
No. So Rangers of the New Republic has been rolled into Mando. So they're kind of adapting as they go. And they're kind of making up how they get to the points they're trying to get to. They're clearly building up to Thrawn. And they're clearly building up to some sort of team up and something with Mandalore. But I think they're kind of being vague in how they get there. But at least they have points they're trying to hit. I don't know. The twins may come up later in future seasons or future stuff.
Right. Maybe.
So,
maybe
I don't know.
I may have to eat my words.
I trust Jon Favreau, and Dave. I don't know how involved is Dave in Book of Boba.
Very. He's directing episode 6.
Oh, okay, then good. I trust both of them with any Star Wars content, so I'm gonna trust that by the end of the series, everything will make sense. I just think they are watching content like this, and they're just kind of like jerking themselves off and laughing. In the process.
Well, that's what I would be doing.
So I think, I have a theory that, Black Chrysanthemum was introduced in this as a vehicle. He might show up later on in the season, and he might just show up in other things later on. I kind of have a theory because we do see the scar above his eye. So we know that he's already had his run-in with Obi-Wan Kenobi or whatever from the comics. And so I think it is possible, hey, maybe we'll see that scene in the Kenobi show, or maybe not. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just there just to be
Dr. Aphra show.
Well, and then that's my other theory, right? That's going to come up.
I'm going to bring that up too, because fucking Boba turns to Black Chrysanthemum and is like, don't work for scuzzballs or whatever he says. Yeah. And I'm like, first of all, Boba, he's been bounty hunting longer than you. So that's cute that you say that.
100 years old, so relax.
But I am going to give it to Boba because Chrysanthemum, you really should have learned your lesson working with Chelly Afra. You should have learned your lesson about working with untrustworthy people, and you did not learn that lesson very clearly. So Chrysanthemum, I'm going to give this one to Boba. He's out of line, but he's right. So the whole fucking Rancor scene is incredible.
Yes.
Bradley, did you catch the thing? Did you catch the thing that I knew? I knew the minute they said this, I was like, oh, Bradley's going to love this.
So unfortunately, it's only a mention. I was like, we are getting one step closer to getting these witches on TV. We are so close. We are so fucking close.
Yeah.
The Witches of Dathomir rode rancors, which they did in Legends, but has not been mentioned as a thing in canon before now.
About to say that was news to me. I'm like,
and it has been
when
confirmed.
did the fucking witches ride rancors?
I didn't
Since
think, I didn't know about that
Legends.
either. Yeah.
Yeah, the Witches of Dathomir rode rancors.
Love that.
And apparently that's canon now. And Boba Fett's like, I want to ride the rancor. And Danny Trejo's like, are you sure?
Yeah.
And Boba's like, he has this line where he's like, I've read things 10 times, written things 10 times the size. Which, first of all, same. Second of all, it's a reference to the Star Wars holiday special.
Which is
canon.
Where he rides the giant, like, dinosaur thing.
It's canon.
It is not canon. Fuck off.
Hey, if Lumpy
Jon
and
Favreau
Mala is canon, then Boba riding is canon.
Again, his name is Waru. He's an adult now.
I'm gonna ride it.
I love it.
What do we think the Rancor's name is gonna be?
Oh, that's such a good thing. Yeah, I don't know.
Because he's like, oh, we gotta name you. And I'm like, what are they gonna name the Rancor?
Okay, so what's the first one called in Return of the Jedi?
The first one is called Patissa.
Patissa. Okay.
Then there's
And-
Moochie.
Then we know Moochie from Bad Batch.
Moochie! Moochie!
Honestly, I have
She was
no
so
idea
cute.
what it's gonna be because this one's a boy. He explicitly says boy. Like
This
he
one's
Yeah,
a
says,
it's a boy.
boy.
Which the other two were female, right?
The females
Yes.
are the females are also more dangerous. Yes.
Django, maybe, but that's too
are they
obvious.
gonna name him?
What are they
No,
gonna name
don't.
the
No,
the
they're not gonna
Rancor?
name him Django.
Yeah, no.
That's the only one I can think of.
No, because then that turns into a weird, like I
That'd be
have
weird. That'd
daddy
be weird.
issues,
That'd be
yeah.
weird as fuck.
Yeah, I don't
Like
know.
daddy issues times a billion. Like no.
Jabba Jr.
Do not name the Rancor after your
Stinky.
dad.
They're gonna
Stinky.
name him Stinky.
They're gonna name him Stinky as a joke. Like, ha ha ha, Jabba's son is my pet.
That would
you know?
that'd be lazy. That'd be lazy writing. Hopefully they name him something more artful than that. I kept waiting for fucking what's his fucking God, why am I forgetting his name? Actor's name, help me.
Dan Trejo.
Ben Trail, thank you. To like literally like he was gonna try to eat Boba like as a double cross from the twins. I'm like, I don't buy that this was just a gift for a gift. Like, are they gonna double cross him and have the Rancor eat him? I don't know what the fuck.
I have seen this.
I was ready
addressed.
for that to happen because I'm like waiting for it to happen when he was like right up in its face, like petting it and like, oh, you're just hungry, blah 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 blah. I'm like, all right, he's about to try and take a fucking chomp out of Boba's arm like right now, and then he leaves and nothing happens. I'm like, okay, maybe not, but I was ready for it. I don't know if either of you were ready for that.
This was addressed. I didn't think they were going that direction, but this was actually addressed.
I was prepared.
That there was people on TikTok who were talking about why they didn't think that this was a long-term play by the twins, and it basically boils down to Rancors are not that smart.
Yeah,
they can't execute a plan like that.
Well, because it's not that they're that smart. They could have trained it.
Yeah, they could have trained it, but
like
they
could have trained it to be hyper
but this one was
aggressive.
a baby.
It could have been sedated, and the sedatives could have worn off by a certain point. I didn't fucking know. I was ready for it to kind of go berserk and try to eat Boba, and then I'm like, okay, no, I guess we're not going that route. And yeah, it's going to be a real pet. Like, but initially, I was skeptical.
I want to discuss Boba's final line of feed it an entire Ronto from the larder. Because this is an interesting... Remember, I talked earlier, there's going to be a point where we really see the difference between Boba and Jabba. Mm-hmm. This is the point I was referencing. Because if we remember from Return of the Jedi, Jabba starved his Rancor.
Right, to keep it angry.
He deliberately starved it to keep it aggressive and angry. So it would attack and consume anything that came into its pen. He used it as basically just entertainment and deliberately kept it hungry so that Jabba would get amusement out of it. Boba is like, I'm going to make sure this thing is well fed. I'm going to train with this thing. I'm going to make sure it's taken care of. This is partly my responsibility now. I felt it really highlighted the difference between the two.
Yeah, and I hope that it pays off, like that this is a setup and it's going to pay off later. And I hope that
It
the
fucking
payoff is
better.
that I hope that the payoff is either A, him writing it into quote unquote battle or whatever reason he needs to write it, or that he is in danger in some situation and the rancor quote unquote can save him slash help him of some sort. You know what I mean? Just in a similar situation. Finally, Boba and Fennec decide to meet the mayor again without an appointment. When the mayor's major domo tries to flee, the Rainbow Bike Gang leap into action, chase him down the streets of Mos Espa. After being stopped, he admits the mayor is now working with the Pikes, and we see dozens of them arriving into town.
Why do I voluntarily listen to you say words every week?
Okay, first of all, I love when the episode title, whatever, quote unquote, comes full circle because I love whenever they say the movie title in a movie or they say the title of the show. And this is the closest thing we're gonna get to that because it is the streets of Mos Espa. It's just a fucking car chase. Like that's all it is.
It's as ridiculous. I did not like this sequence, but not for the like stupid there's rainbow speeder bikes and youth hooligans and my Star Wars. I'm sorry, have you seen a George Lucas joint? Like, shut up. No, what I didn't like about it was the stakes felt very low.
Yeah.
They weren't moving very fast through the streets. There was one bit where a guy literally full on rams into a table and he just flips over a few times and he's fine. Like there's no element of danger to it really at all. One guy does kind of our very hot eye boy does a very impressive kind of flip up onto the wall and then down, and then Sophie Thatcher's character does like an Anakin Skywalker move.
Right.
Yes. I am nothing if not trying to be accurate on the show and failing miserably every time. She does kind of an Anakin Skywalker kind of move, but other than that, like very low stakes, kind of not particularly gripping. Like compared to the train chase, the train scene from last week, where like it was this pulse pounding action sequence, and then this one's just kind of they're definitely chasing the guy through the streets. Like,
yeah, it was. It was camp. Like I thought they were trying to make it like comical, like almost, and I'm like, okay, no, they're trying to make this serious. I don't know if it's because of like how they shot it.
Yeah,
like,
no, you're right. It was
just like
comical.
Right, it was comical, but they weren't trying to make it comical. Like I'm like.
It was unintentionally
so they have the knockoff Power Rangers chasing a fucking speeder through these little maze streets in a Mos Espa. Like, and I was laughing about it. Like, and I think I saved the meme for this podcast because I forgot where I saw it. It was Facebook or somewhere. Where literally it was the Rainbow Speed Bike Gang, and then pan over and it's the Power Rangers on their little like bikes. And I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what the fuck it was. It was the fucking Power Rangers. Like, and then there was another thing that they made fun of them and compared them to. I thought it was Rainbow Bright or like the Care Bears or something. Like, I forget. It cheapened the chase, cheapened my view of the speeder bike gang. Like,
absolutely.
And the crew that he has hired to do his bidding and help and like establish him as a daimyo. I did not like how they shot it. I feel that it's not a fault of how the scene was written and everything else. I literally think it's about who was in charge of shooting the fucking chase scene. So whoever did it, I think
Robert Rodriguez.
Well, we can tell you because that's the final thing we say is directed by. But yeah,
we'll get to that in a bit.
Robert really fucking dropped the ball on that scene.
And you bring up an interesting point of it. Sort of diminishes because it's supposed to be the swoop gang's like big moment. to
Well, it's not the swoop. Well, the swoop gang is
Scooter
the
gang
other
or
guy.
whatever.
Scooter gang, yeah.
The Scooter gang or whatever. It's supposed to be their
Scooter
big moment
gang.
of showing here's what we can do. And you could tell how on paper, particularly Sophie Thatcher doing the like Anakin Skywalker going up and over thing, which,
Right.
okay, yes, admittedly, that one was a very cool move.
It was cute.
Yeah, but it kind of lessened them a bit. And like teasing the bikes, it's done with love. I love the stupid GSA rainbow bikes. Like, I love this so much, so I'm going to make fun of it because it's ridiculous. But the actual pacing of the chase itself, yeah, it's so slow.
It was slow.
They hit
Like,
Star Wars Explained made the point, and I agree with him, which I agree on Alex Damon on a lot of things. But like they hit like every chase cliche on the way down.
Yeah, I was
Like,
gonna say, yeah. It
The
was
guy-
the whole like,
I'm like,
yeah.
The guy goes through a painting because obviously is some minor references and Easter eggs. We got a dank ferret, kids.
I
a dank
We got a dank
you
ferret.
love
Our
you
dank
love to
ferret
bring up
counters at
the
one.
fucking swear words in Star Wars.
right.
Like,
Ours is that now for Book of Boba. We didn't know this was
First
gonna
of
happen,
all-
but Book of Boba.
when,
First
when,
of all-
is that the first one?
That's
That
what
is
it
the
was.
first dank ferret. First of
That's
all,
the first
get
dank
cricked.
ferret. Okay.
Get cricked. That's my first of all. Second of all, I just love dank ferret, like in general. I just think it's funny.
It's great.
They mentioned like dank just by itself earlier in the episode, which was interesting. The protocol droid that they run by, the markings on the protocol's droid's face resemble TC-70, which was Jabba's interpreter droid in the Clone Wars. That's just a fun Easter egg. But a more fun Easter egg, that piece of art that they're moving out is a piece of, so it's interesting, it's a piece of quote unquote concept art for Return of the Jedi. Bradley, do you want to hazard a fucking guess who painted that?
I'm gonna say it's Ralph McQuarrie.
You would be absolutely right. That is a Ralph McQuarrie painting that is Luke. It was a series of studies he did after the film had already been completed. So it's not technically concept art. It's more like studies on the film in his style. But it's Luke confronting Jabba. They've just removed Luke.
Nice.
So if you look at the whole thing, you can see Luke standing there. They've tightened it in onto Jabba, and they've removed Luke. But other than that, it is a piece of concept art. The Major Domo crashes into a stall of Meluron fruit,
From Rebels.
obviously.
The Meluron,
They're little Meluron fruits.
the coveted fruit itself.
And then finally, the ships that the Pikes land on vaguely resemble the Halcyon somewhat. I checked and they don't look exactly the same. They do kind of look like the Halcyon. They're sort of the same type of ship.
those are just the Starline freighters, like
Yeah.
like passenger freighters.
Well, that's what the Halcyon is. I thought originally, I was like, is your product placement so shameless that you're literally just putting the Halcyon in? Not quite. They look similar, but it's not the same thing.
I was gonna say this was a missed opportunity to do the Galactic Star Cruiser for Disney World. Like they should have just put that fucking ship in there and then been like, look, you guys can also ride this coming March 2022.
It literally turns
and pay
up
$8,000 for it.
It literally turns up by name in Wave 3 of the High Republic. Like, minor spoilers for Mission to Disaster, but it does turn up in the climax, play a pivotal role, and get name dropped. So, like, they're putting it in things. I thought that's what they did here. I thought as far back as the trailer that was the Halcyon. But no, it's just a random passenger liner, which, I mean, who the fuck goes to Tatooine voluntarily?
Well, clearly an army of Pikes.
There's an army of Pikes, and Boba's like, we will be ready for war with them, which is an interesting change from how he's been addressing things thus far. He's all, let's talk about this. Let's make sure that we're doing things. And with the Pikes, he's like, nah, it's time to throw down.
And I'm hoping now that we've gotten to this point, we now know the next episode will start with the goddamn dinner scene.
About fucking time. About
I mean,
the thing that I thought would be the second or third scene of the show. We're on episode fucking 4, and we haven't gotten to yet.
And the only reason why I say that is because in the beginning of the episode, he explicitly says, you know, the Trandoshans have the center of the city, the Aqualish have this, the da-da-da, you know, he explicitly said all three of them.
Claytonians
Right.
are the last guys.
And I'm like, okay, fine. You've established who's at the dinner party. Now you have to join forces with the dinner party so that you guys can all take out the pikes because you don't want no new people coming in and stealing your thunder.
My final note on this sequence, which is a stupid little reference, is our very sexy iBoy contacts Boba on what looks like the Star Wars version of a payphone. This has been pointed out to be another minor reference to the holiday special where Boba Fett contacts Darth Vader using a similar device.
Nice.
It's just a view screen that appears to be the Star Wars version of just a random public telephone. So, John, we see you with those Star Wars holiday special references.
And so the directed by Robert Rodriguez comes up, at which I was shocked to see his name. Like as a double.
Because the scooter bike sucked.
Well, not just that, but because this is now the second episode he's directed this season. And I was confused because I thought we were going to pull a Mando. And it was like going to be, you know, a different person up until a certain point, and then they repeat. But I guess just because there's only 7 episodes, you know, I mean,
maybe it's going Robert, different director, Robert, different director. Robert,
yeah, I don't know how they split it up.
Different director, Robert, because Dave Filoni's doing episode 6,
and then Robert.
But somebody else is doing 4. So if Robert's doing 1, 3, 5, and 7, he's doing every other episode.
That makes sense.
And then we have Steph Green, Dave Filoni.
And then somebody else
doing next week.
Interesting.
So yeah, directed by Robert Rodriguez, written by Jon Favreau. Bad John. Bad.
So do we think that John probably wrote the whole thing?
And Dave, and I'm not letting you off the hook either, Dave.
He probably wrote the biker scene, but I'm sure he imagined it being shot better.
I know that.
But... I'm more mad about the Tusken thing.
Yeah.
I'm not letting that go. Bad John and Dave. You can do better. Bad. Hire diverse teams to make your stuff so someone can maybe tell you when a choice is going to be bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to have every moment's not going to be, you know, a great moment. But I mean, I guess.
Yeah, and this was definitely just keep. And the point has been raised, not moving away from the Tusken thing to the overall scope of the episode, which I think was very weak. The point has been made. This is chapter 3 of 7. It's very much a serial, and we're not getting the whole story, which I'm fine with. But each episode still kind of has to stand on its own and have its own internal structure. And this one really didn't. This one was super weak, I felt like, because I said at the top of the show, it's a lot of setups and setups and setups and setups. We set up the Rancor. We set up the Pikes. We set up the Scooter Gang. We set up all this, that the mayor's betrayed him. We set this stuff up, and then the episode ends. So it's like, here's all the stuff you can expect going into the series, but the internal episode itself didn't really tell a story the way that episode 1 did, or episode 2 did. It did it with the flashbacks. This one didn't really tell a complete story in my mind. It just felt like a part of a whole, and it was weaker for it. That's my final thoughts that I jumped to ahead of time. Clayton, what are your final thoughts on the Streets of Mos Espa?
The streets could definitely be more exciting in terms of the damn scooter chase. Like on the scooter gang, I'm like, yeah, so you're definitely the scooters people, like, you know, the little rascals going down the shopping carts, like shopping cart aisles in the grocery store. That's kind of like what the chase reminded me of.
Sorry, the little rascals.
Oh my god,
that's literally like, I'm about to offend whoever the fuck needs those to go down the aisle. Well, my grandma's one of them, and she went to the store tonight, and the battery on the little rascal in the store died. Like, she was complaining about that earlier. But yeah, no, that's literally what it reminded me of. Like, was just like those little grocery store carts going through the streets of Mos Espa. Like, it was just so not exciting, and it really killed the whole vibe of the episode. And the sensitivity behind the Tuscan memories, which I really agree with Charles, like that totally could have been done more tactfully. And I don't know if it's like a kind of Game of Thrones situation where they don't have enough episodes to like tie in everything and tie it all up with a nice bow, kind of, because last season of Game of Thrones is only 6 episodes. This is going to be 8. Is this 8?
This is 7, and we don't talk about the last season of Game of
7.
Thrones.
Oh, well, right.
We don't talk about the last season of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that the season not to be named. But yeah, it's just, there's a lot of missed opportunities in this episode, and it's so uncharacteristic to what the content that we're used to seeing from this team. So I am overall not happy with this episode at all. Like, I probably will feel completely differently after the next episode, but I don't know. I'm just puzzled, and I'm just kind of, this episode just feels, if I could put it into one word, it's cheap. And that's the most critical I've ever been of any of the episodes that have come out of this team.
Bradley, you want to give us your final thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of want to piggyback off what Clayton said. I think it's weak in that, again, it doesn't, like you said, it sets up, it just doesn't pay off. It's right. Only setting up, it's not doing the payoffs. And I think it was, like I said before, it's like you needed a little bit of episode 2 and episode 1 to make it a complete episode, versus like this one as well. I feel like we're just not getting the final scene of the episode until the beginning of next week. So I don't understand why they're doing it like that. I also agree. I think the flashbacks this week were just not a complete story. And I think that's why it failed in the flashback world, because it was only like one part of an arc of a story. Like, we didn't get a full arc like we have the last 2 episodes. And so I think the flashbacks failed this week, which is probably what made the episode weaker. And then overall, the future plot, again, just cut off before it was supposed to end. I think that was the issue, because you kind of, unfortunately, put some filler in the episode, which would technically be the bike scene chase would be the filler. Because now you've had 2 action sequences in, the fight of Black Chrysanthemum is a good fight and everything, but it's also like fight scenes are pretty much filler for most shows. At least that one wasn't as long. The bike scene felt a little too long / almost too short. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain why that. There's a lot of things that you go into the bike scenes, but unfortunately with the bike scenes, most of the time all I could think about was the movie Luca, and they're all riding on Vespas basically. And
I have not seen Luca yet.
I love Luca.
You
haven't seen Luca? Oh my god!
Bad gay. Bad gay. Bad gay.
Literally
I know.
the most blatantly gay Disney movie I think out there right now. Like, it's just, it's so cute.
All righty. Well, Clayton, thank you for taking the time out to come and join us and talk about this disappointing episode of the Book of Boba Fett. Do you want to reiterate for the people at home what they can do to help support you in the Miss Atlanta pageant?
For Miss Atlanta Showgirl, the pageant is April 25th. You can donate to my Cash App, Venmo, or my GoFundMe. I'll make sure to give all those over. But yeah, I'll be doing shows in the lead up to the pageant. So I'll be doing more shows, I think, at the weekends here in Atlanta to help raise money, make sure everything is designed properly for me to steal the show. But yeah, literally, it's going to be mostly just raising money to make sure I can pay for everything, backup dancers, my presentation costume, which is going to be very expensive. I've already paid for most of it. Gown I'm having designed. I just talked to my designer today. Like there's a lot that goes into it, and a lot of money in doing a pageant, especially if you're like me. And you want to do a pageant well so that you can win, because I don't do anything half-assed. Donating is the easiest thing you can do. And if you guys want to come see me at one of the weekend shows I'm doing the next few months, please do. I'll do my best to advertise those as much as possible. Yep. And then buy a t-shirt when I announce the designs for those.
Definitely check out the links that we will provide where you can toss a few coins Clayton's way if you are in the Atlanta area and you can do so safely. I cannot stress this enough. If you can do so safely and you want to go out, just look for Hydra to be performing, and definitely go and give her your support. And then if you're in the area, April 25th, you can go see this pageant for yourself. And I can definitely confirm, when it comes to drag, Clayton does not do anything half-assed.
Oh no, especially competitive. So Charles knows competitive drag.
I do. I can say that this is a thing I actually do now. Well, Clayton, thank you for joining us. Bradley, go ahead and run the socials so I don't have to hear your voice for another week.
Thank you for listening to Gold Squadron Gaze.
Did we forget something? Email us at goldsquadrongays@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at GoldSquadGays, and you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at GoldSquadronGays. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Gold Squadron Gays, where we post this podcast as well as exclusive video content.
Please join us next week and every week for another episode of Gold Squadron Gaze. He just doesn't want to show his face. Relax. Like, damn.
I was checking Grindr, y'all.
Right,
chill.
Oh,
nosy. He's
damn.
making sure his hookup is still ready to go. Relax. It's been like an hour 30. He's trying to like just double
It's
check.
the middle of bumfuck nowhere. He's gonna be like, dude, if you want dick, you can wait 30 more minutes for me to finish a Star Wars podcast. Right.